Yeah, I confirm the recording has started, so I will open this meeting with agenda item 1, which is appointment of chairperson. Could I please have a proposer for chairperson?
Yes, could I propose Councillor Paterson, please?
Thank you, Councillor Jeff Jones. Can I have a seconder for chairperson,
I'd
please?
second that, Chloe.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Councillor Paterson, please could you take the position of chairperson for this meeting? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chloe, and thank you, members, for allowing me to chair this meeting. So I'm very pleased to be here this morning. I'm going to open the meeting, or Chloe has opened the meeting, and I would like to welcome everybody, members of the press, members of public, members who have been involved in the application thus far, officers, everybody. This is quite a day for Neath Port Talbot, so welcome to everybody. Just to make you aware, this meeting will be recorded, and can I also kindly ask you to observe the meeting only if you're attending online and not a member of the committee. Please make sure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. And could I ask anybody that speaks in the meeting when they first speak, because we're not having a roll call, to just say who you are and your designation so that anybody watching back will be perfectly well aware of how things are going. Could you please raise your electronic hands via Teams if you wish to speak, or if, well, there's a few people in the chamber, but I will see those. And you have to use your microphones when speaking. Okay. The announcements, agenda item 2. I have no announcements to make, but I would like to say something after we've finished with the recommendations, so I'll come back to that. So agenda item 3, are there any declarations of interest, please, from members of the Planning Committee? If you could raise your hand or indicate in some way so Chloe can see.
I see no indication, Chair, so there's no declarations.
Okay. Chloe, are we quorate for this meeting, please?
Yes, I can confirm we have 10 members of the Planning Committee present today.
Thank you, Chloe. That's great. So agenda item 4, are there any members wishing to suggest a site visit? But we already have had a site visit or the opportunity of one. So anybody wishing to say on agenda item 4? I believe we've already been.
I see no indication,
No,
Chair,
fine.
but members can raise site visits at any time for any applications.
During the meeting. Okay, so we do have a speaker today, so I'll come to that at the due time. So there is one item for decision today, which is at agenda item 5. It's an application P2020-0766. This is to be considered alongside the amendment sheet and the presentation that will be following the meeting. These are on pages 5 to 62, and this application is recommended for approval by our officers. So I would like the Planning Officer, Chris Davis, now then, please, to take us through this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is planning application number 2022-0766. It's an application for reserve matters for the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale in relation to outline planning application P2018-0493. It's for the proposed adventure resort, now known as Wild Fox, at land at Pennebryn, Croesaru, Cymru. It's also for the discharge of a number of conditions, which we'll go into further in the committee. So this application is for reserve matters. Just to make clear, obviously this forms part of the outline planning application to create one whole application. So the principle of development and matters in relation to parameters of development, the amount and the type of development on the site has already been approved under outline application stage. So this is just the detail that follows on from that outline application. So in terms of the reserve matters element, this consists of 570 guest lodges of various sizes, a Wild Fox hotel, which is the first phase. It's a 50-bed hotel and also includes a 15-number bed apartment hotel rooms in a separate structure with bike hire. Guest parking, which is multi-storey car park below the Wild Fox hotel, containing 650 guest and visitor spaces, and EV charging. Rock and Wild, an indoor water park and canyoning and with changing facilities and associated development. Wild Fox Mountain, which is an indoor climbing and bouldering hall and adventure hub. Wild Fox Spa, which is a spa and wellness suite for 75 to 100 guests. Summit Hub, which is a food and beverage offer, welfare facilities and viewing area. Forest Hub, a welfare and complimentary drinks facility. Staff compound with 250 car parking spaces and service yard for deliveries, and then arrivals building for drive-through resort and checkout, together with obviously all the public realm and infrastructure works associated with that. So this just gives you an overview of the site location. It's 132.5 hectares of forestry plantation located on the southern slopes in the valley of the River Avon. It's bounded to the north by the A4107 Britton Road, beyond which is the settlement of Cummer, and you can obviously see there how it fits in with, you've got Croeseru then located to the east. In terms of the proposals, this is the master plan that is evolved from the outline planning application. You'll see the proposed site access in a similar location as proposed under the outline. That will be the main access to the site once completed. The staff access is located over here to the west, again in a similar location as proposed under the outline application, with the main three buildings in an area in the centre of the site, creating public realm and water features there. You've got the Summit Hub at the top of the site here, adjacent to the existing television mast. And then you've got another building over here, and these areas here are the lodges. As you see, they're all located following the contours of the site to ensure that there's a minimal impact in terms of visual and landscape. We've got some, obviously, there's a number of plans in the report, and all the plans are available on the website, but we thought we'd put some CGI images of the site into the presentation for you to see. We've obviously got, there's the Wild Fox Hotel located in this area here. You've got the lodges following the contours of the site as it rises up the landscape, and you've got Rock and Wild. Again, you can see how they've developed the buildings to form out of the landscape and take account of the topography. Typical elevations of the lodges. These have all got biodiverse green roofs. I see, dependent on the size of the road, they, in terms of levels, they've built in to accommodate the sloping site. Again, some typical images of lodges. Rock and Wild. Again, as you see, they're building up through the landscape of the lodges, following the contours. Another view of the hotel with the multi-story car park underneath. Again, this is another version of the master plan, showing more of the landscaping. This is the public realm area between the three main buildings. You've got the hotel at the top of the site. You've got the spa at the bottom here, and the water features in here will form part of the attenuation and drainage strategy for the SARBS application. Again, we've got a typical example of the public realm works around Wild Fox Mountain, in showing tracks and trails through the site. And typical landscaping and layout for the lodges. Again, as you see, they're trying to follow the contours of the site to ensure that there's minimal in terms of cut and fill on the site. The application also seeks to discharge a number of planning conditions. And if you look at your report on page 14, you will see the list of conditions there that are proposed to be discharged under this application. As members are no doubt aware, there's also a concurrent application to discharge a separate section of conditions, which has already been determined at delegated level. On page 14, you will also see a list there of conditions that are yet to be submitted. Some of these key applications are a written scheme for historic environment mitigation in terms of the archaeology on the site, a number of further construction management plan type conditions, and there's also phased conditions that follow on from the strategic ones that we're looking at here today. There's also another couple of key elements, but what I'll do is I'll go out of this presentation and show you the section of drone footage. So there's a number of key issues that we've looked at on the site in terms of impacts, in terms of residential amenity, active travel, impacts on the rights of way, biodiversity, land contamination, and archaeology. But it's just some I want to touch on while you're watching the drone footage here. In terms of the public rights of way, you will see that there's an overarching strategy in terms of that, but currently the rights of way are existing on site. There's no changes proposed as part of this application. Any diversions would be dealt with under a separate process and with its own appeal process. So that is not currently to be considered under this. The scheme does accommodate those diversions, but obviously because that's a separate process and it has its own appeal process, it's not. It doesn't get determined under this application here today. We've received 3 consultation responses from members of the public. One of those particularly relates to archaeology. Again, just to clarify, there is a condition regarding archaeology, and that still remains on the outline planning permission. As I said earlier, the outline and reserve matters application form 1 application, so there are still yet a large number of conditions yet to be submitted. But archaeology, the applicants are working towards a strategy for that, and obviously anything that comes out of that in terms of any features that need to be retained or any process that's undergone to get anything listed or scheduled as a nature monument that comes in. After that, we'll have to accommodate those works. The active travel, obviously, as you see in the beginning of the report, there was a part of the Section 106 agreement was to provide improvements to active travel. There's improvements being undertaken on the staff access side to get access to the active travel routes, and there's improvements on that end. And there's also conditions on this application regarding detailed schemes to come in to ensure that both visitors and staff can access and exit the site via active travel. Our conditions in terms of the application are all set out within the report from page 50 through to page 62. As you will see from the amendment sheet, we're proposing a slight amendment to condition 1. As you see, there's a large number of documents that have been submitted to the authority for consideration. And obviously, there's a couple of errors in there that we need to address. So that's been set out on the amendment sheet. So our recommendation here today is for approval, subject to conditions, and obviously the change on the amendment sheet as set out. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Davis. That's our Development Management Control Manager. So thank you very much for the report. Now, members may notice that Vice Chair has had to leave just temporarily. He's got a bit of a cough, so he didn't want to do that in front of everybody. So I'm just going to hold up the meeting just a couple of minutes, just until he comes back. He didn't, it's not going to be long. He's just having a breather. I have to do this because at the end of the meeting, I will be asking all members, have they been here throughout? So I have to hold up the meeting just temporarily. Okay, bear with us. I'm just going to give him another couple of minutes. A member of Democratic Services, just going to see if he's all right. If he's unable to continue, we'll still be quorate. So, but I will give him, because he's vice chair, we'll just give him a couple more minutes. So welcome back to our vice chair. Thank you. I had to hold everything up, so you haven't missed anything. So we'll proceed now. So where I am now. Chris. Right. Neath Talbot do have the facility for members of the public to speak to the committee for 5 minutes. We do have a speaker today. It is Martin Bellamy of Wild Fox. So a big warm welcome to you. I'll call on you shortly. Normally it's 5 minutes. I will give a little latitude, seeing as it's a very important application. And we do not have anybody speaking against today. There is the opportunity. People have just not come forward. So in case anybody thinks there's only one-sided, the opportunity existed, nobody came forward. That doesn't stop Mr. Martin Bellamy now. I will call on you to address committee from your position with the company and tell us why you think this should be approved today. Mr. Martin Bellamy.
Chair, if I could, I'm just going to start the timer. I know you said you give some leeway.
Absolutely.
So just to let you know, I'll start the timer when you start speaking, and then I'll let you know when you have 1 minute remaining, and then the chair can give her discretion as to if she will allow you to continue.
Thank you very much. Good morning, chair members. Thank you for welcoming me today. Can I just check that you can hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Martin Bellamy. I'm Chairman and CEO of Salamanca Group and CEO of Wild Fox Resorts. It's fantastic to reach this major milestone of the project. The applications themselves, I think, confirm our commitment to transforming the outline consent into action on the ground. And I'd firstly like to thank everybody who's engaged and worked with us on this transformational scheme. I appreciate it's a large and complicated project, which has required input from across the council to get to committee today. Since the outline approval, we've worked hard to develop a distinctive new brand to create a new image that reflects the look and feel of the resort we're seeking to establish. Wild Fox Resorts is the first of a new generation of adventure resorts in the UK for family and friends. And when I was first introduced to Avon Valley, I instantly saw its potential, and it made the perfect home for a new style staycation in the UK. Our priority is to create memorable experiences, not just for our guests, but also for our workforce. Our ambition is for Wild Fox Resorts to be a market leader, setting a new standard for tourism across sustainability, workforce development, and innovation. We've assembled a team of trusted experts, many based in Wales, who are capable and experienced with delivering significant regeneration projects to turn our vision into reality. We've completed very significant work packages this year, a comprehensive programme of ground investigations to inform the engineering design, and also preparing the land known as the solar farm site, just to the south of the main site, for environmental enhancement. Our technical team has been inspired to design a resort that respects the site's constraints, introduces complementary architecture, and integrates building design into the landscape. I think, as I've said before, we don't undertake projects lightly and acknowledge the challenges, and we're committed to using this project as a catalyst for environmental restoration and socio-economic development. The Avon Valley site will benefit from landscape enhancement. The resort will open up procurement and supply chain routes and revitalise the economy through a diverse range of new training and employment for local people. This will boost Welsh tourism and increase the visibility and awareness of the valleys as a year-round holiday destination, ensuring sustained and not seasonal employment. Its location in particular is unique, being positioned amongst existing world-class adventure activities. The Avon Forest Trails, for example, Bike Park Wales and national show cave centres, as well as being relatively close to the natural landscapes like the Brecon Beacons and the Gower Peninsula. We want to attract, promote and link these destinations, inspiring the notion to explore what Wales has to offer and to create champions of the future. Acknowledging the strength of mountain biking in South Wales specifically, Wild Fox is going to build on this with new trails and downhill activities and widen such activities to include climbing, bouldering at Wild Fox Mountain, or canyoning and coast steering at Rock and Wild. I hope this will assist in setting the context for you in respect to the Reserve Matters application and related conditions before you today. The success of this project moving forward will have to be based on collaboration. We cannot do this alone. As we move into delivery, working closely with the council, contractors and suppliers, and community, all will be key. Through the next phase, we'll be working hard with MPT, Community Safety Partnership, and the Communications and Economic team to proactively communicate with residents, community groups, and businesses to build momentum and confidence about what this regeneration will mean for them. The Wild Fox community will be part of the Avon Valley community, and we want to create something that we can be truly proud of. And I would just like to emphasize this one point. This is a partnership, and we will need to work closely together as we have done during this testing period to get to the committee today. Thank you, and I commend the proposals to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Bellamy, for that eloquent presentation there. As I am normally line to do, before I go to committee, I'm going to go to local members. The Vice Chair is a local member, and also I see that Councillor Scott Jones is on the meeting, so I will ask him in due course if he wishes to say anything, and then I'll go to committee. So the Vice Chair, please.
Yes, thank you. I feel this development is an opportunity for us all in Neath and Talbot and the neighbouring authorities to benefit from the added employment, the income to local businesses and improvements to the infrastructure. I thank you, Mr. Bellamy. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'll call now on Councillor Scott Jones, another local member, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to attend here this morning. You'll be pleased to know that I won't be intending in speaking in great length. I've given this a lot of thought and consideration in previous meetings. However, it'll be amiss of me not to put on record, really. First and foremost, my thanks to our planning manager, Chris Davis, and his team, who work very diligently in terms of this application, along with our highways colleagues as well, to bring the application to this stage. This will be a massive game changer for us here in the Avon Valley, and it'll be an excellent opportunity not only for the Valley but the wider county borough of Neath and Talbot as well. It's been touched upon, and it will have a massive positive impact on our tourism industry going forward. I look forward to working with Wild Fox going forward in trying to ensure that the jobs that will be once created as a result of this project will be kept as local as possible as we move forward into the delivery stage. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Bellamy, and his team as well. And I look forward to the continuation of the very close partnership working between himself, his staff, and our colleagues here at Neath and Talbot. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. As I normally do, I will come back to local members and give them last words if so desired. Okay then, you've had the report, a very detailed report, and I would like to also commend planning officers of all grades and involvement in this application, because it's been months and months, well, years, I think, really. So thank you for that. I will call on the committee members now if anybody has questions or comments to make on this application. Everybody happy? Yes? Councillor Sarah Thomas, please.
Hi, sorry, I thought someone should ask a question. So there was mention in the report about the underground reservoir. I was just wondering what we've looked at in regards to that and how deep it is. And, you know, I realise drainage is getting ticked off under this. I was just wondering if officers could offer a little more detail on that, please.
Yes, thank you. As you see, there's a large amount of information that's been done on ground conditions, and in relation to the scheme that was put in and outlined since then, there's been, you know, a significant amount of work looking at ground investigations and land contamination. As you see, the scheme has evolved since the outline stage due to some of the ground areas not being suitable for some of the buildings. So in some ways, the layout on the site has evolved to address some of those impacts. As you can imagine, due to the scale of the site and the complexity in terms of translocation of reptiles and things like ecology, there's still a lot of work to be done. So as you see, there's still a number of conditions there in relation to ground conditions that are yet to be finalised. But in terms of specific elements like the existing tunnel that runs through the site and the reservoir, there's further work to be done on investigations, but nothing that will substantially change in terms of the application that you see before you.
Are you happy with the answer?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call now on Councillor Davis, Heath Davis.
Thank you, Chair, for that. Only just to say that there's a lot of history up in that area, and from the Welsh and ancient Welsh Celtic history, for battles and historical mounds of the Roman road, stuff like things like that. They're not going to be destroyed. That's the main thing I'm concerned at. And if it can be encouraged that to have something there to show, not so much now, but in the future, that it was like the M4 at one time up there. Very, very busy sort of terrain, you know. So the main concern is now that we don't lose the heritage as well of that area.
Thank you, Councillor. Chris Davis.
Yes, as you set out, condition 13 specifically requires them to do an assessment in terms of the archaeology. I think in dealing with the applicants, they're very keen on the, you know, local issues, and they understand that you know, there's a lot of local interest and potentially wider interest, and obviously their visitors would value interpretation of the site in terms of understanding the history of it. So I think as part of that condition, as part of ongoing research into the site, there's likely to be areas where there will be some interpretation as part of that condition. So obviously, you need to keep an eye out on the weekly lists coming forward. So when that application comes in, it'll come up on the weekly list, and we can perhaps highlight it to committee members to show, so you can have a look at that information when it comes in before us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis. Are you happy with the response? Yes. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Okay. The next speaker is Councillor Ros Davis, please.
I suppose that I'll say regarding what Heath just stated, that there will be interpretation boards showing the history of the area.
I would imagine that's something that may well be considered as part of that application. As I said, the applicants are very keen and to try and make this, you know, specific to the local area. So again, I would have thought that that's probably something that they would definitely want to look at as part of their proposals, and something that obviously they'll hear from this committee today, and it's something that will carry through with the discussions that we'll have with them going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
That's good. On page 16, it states the head on the consultations, it states the head of engineering and transport, no objection, subject to the imposition of further conditions. Will that be later on in the application?
Mr. Davis?
There are conditions placed on this application. The concurrent application to discharge conditions covered the detailed design of the main site access and the staff access. Obviously, you can't condition discharge of conditions, but we can impose conditions on this application. So you will see there's 2 conditions on here, one for specific engineering details in terms of the site access, because obviously there's further groundwork and investigation to undertake there in that area. And also there's details in terms of TROs and signage for the staff access. So those are conditions that have been imposed on this application.
Happy with the response, councillor?
Yes, thank you very much to come out.
Okay, thank you. I now have councillor Ken Phillips, please.
Thank you, Chair. Along a similar line as has been asked by the previous councillors, in terms of the local interest and local features, do we have any information on both the retaining of original Welsh language names for features around the site, and whether there's any plans for Welsh language signage on the site?
Again, I think the applicants are fully aware of where they are. They've engaged with the community all the way through the process, and I think that you know, bilingual signage and looking at the history of the site in terms of trying to retain some of those features is forefront in their minds. And as I said, you know, as you can imagine, a development of this scale, there's still a lot of work and a lot of conditions in which to submit, but they are very keen, and they've been working with our economic development section and tourism section to try and get lots of linkages into the local area. And I think that you know, they, as the councillors have pointed out, you know, they are reliant on input from the local area, just as, you know, we're welcoming them as a development within this area that will have, you know, a good economic, social and economic benefit for the area as a whole. And I think that the key to that is integrating it with the local community. So I think that that is something that they will definitely look at, and something that we would be pushing through now to the detailed stages in terms of the other conditions that we're yet to have sight of.
Happy with the response, councillor?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I would just like to say that, you know, having sat on the committee for very many years now, I wouldn't like to put any words into Mr. Bellamy's mouth, but I'm sure it's in their own best interest to use everything Welsh in connection with their resort, because that's what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to achieve a unique positioning here in Wales. So I think if you watch planning applications coming forward, and you'll see that they are very much interested in their Welsh heritage, councillor. Okay. Okay. Councillor Sarah Thomas wants to come back.
I do. Sorry, this might be a bit of a silly question, but a few of the paragraphs in the report sort of ended with the plant, and I was just wondering what it meant in that context. I can give an example if it helps. On page 10, under Wild Fox Hotel, it says, you know, it lists all of the facilities, and it says ends with staff, welfare facilities, and plant. I'm just wondering what plant means in that context.
Okay, Sarah, Councillor Thomas, thank you.
Yeah, it's basically plant and machinery to run the operation. As you can imagine, each building in terms of Rock and Wild or the swimming pool or other facilities will have their general plant machinery. So they have plant rooms or plant facilities. So if you look at a lot of them, they've all got service areas and you know, associated work. So it's kind of plant and machinery that will go along with those applications, with those buildings. But there's no
So these would be like outside. They would be outside then, rather than in the buildings, because
no, I think they
a lot of buildings.
Predominantly, they're rooms within buildings, you know, to you know, run the heating and air conditioning, that type of thing.
Okay. Sorry, I was thinking, you know, building lorries and things, plant machinery. So I was a bit confused why the hotel would have them in.
I think it's a broad term, councillor, for sort of any subsequent engineering things that are required on site. I'm sure,
like I said,
a holiday destination, they're going to make their every efforts to hide most things that can be hidden. But obviously, you're quite right. Some things are going to have to be out in the open. But that's basically the definition of plant in that respect. Okay.
Okay, that is indeed the one I'm familiar with. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Ros Davis would also like to come back. Ros?
Just an observation and a statement saying that I hope that historical Welsh names will not be lost in the process.
Yep, I can quite understand you making that comment, but I'm not sure that we can compel Mr. Davis.
As I said, you know, all of the discussions that we've had with them so far is that there's obviously areas there that they're going to retain, and there's a lot of local interest of the local member discussions with them in the past. So I think that is something that they would definitely look at, and obviously they can take away from this scheme in terms of signage and detailed design of interpretation. We're not at that stage yet. I mean, just to clarify, we're kind of another year of like translocation works and ground investigations before they're putting a spade in the ground in terms of building things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that can happen between now and then. So as you can imagine, in terms of procurement and things like that, you know, the way the economy is at the moment, you don't want to go and put all your eggs in one basket because that company may not exist in 6 months' time. So there's lots of work to be done over the next 12 months.
Yeah.
But we're in continued conversation with them, and I think that they are keen to engage with the local community by having signage that is relevant to the local area. That is something that I think is key to making it work.
That's brilliant. Okay, I do have the legal officer wishing to speak, but I'll call on you in just one moment, Mr. Shaw. I have the Director of Environment who wishes to come in now, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say, and it follows on from what Mr. Bellamy indicated earlier on, effectively, this could be one of a number of resorts that are rolled out across the country, and having regard to that, it's important that they pay respect to the local distinctiveness and character and culture of the area. And they have had regard and respect to that throughout this process, and they've been quite clear of their intentions to engage with the local community, engage with local businesses. So we've got supply chain activity linked to the development. And they've also indicated that whilst they're encouraging people to visit and stay in their resort, they don't want to retain those people just for themselves. They want to make linkages with existing businesses in the area so that people will benefit from the tourism and leisure offer we have within Neath, Talbot and beyond. So, they have got regard to the importance of this particular area, but they've also got regard to the need to link up with existing opportunities. And what we understand will happen going forward is that visitors will come and stay in this particular area and engage with local businesses and tourism opportunities, and then return and perhaps visit the other opportunities within the area and improve the contributions to our local economy. But as I said earlier on, it's important that we pay regard to the local distinctiveness and character of this area. And it's fair to say that when you're on site, the actual vistas from that site and within that site are second to none. And we don't often appreciate what we have on our doorstep. But I think in this particular case, it is tremendous and it's going to be transformational. And the community and the local environment will benefit from this investment at this particular location.
Thank you, Mrs. Pearce. That's our Director of Environment. Councillor, are you soothed by the response?
Yes, hopefully. Diolch.
Yeah, well, as I say, this is a detailed application, but even saying that, there are many, many conditions to be worked through, and the finer details of the details will be coming forward. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you just a simple example. The artist impressions that we showed you today are very different to the ideas that the previous scheme has had. So if you look at the old images that were shown at planning committee at outline stage, it was all bright primary colours, and I think that the new team that have been involved in this scheme have gone and looked at it and gone, well, that doesn't work. That's not what we want to try and achieve here. We want something that's more distinctive but recessive in the landscape. We want to go for more earthy tones that reflects the countryside around it. So I think they're looking at it as in a more bespoke scheme rather than something that would have a you know, you're not going to go to the same wild fox site in Wales and go to a wild fox site somewhere else and see the same thing. It does look like it's being, you know, bespoke to this area to reflect its landscape. So in terms of, you know, the ecology strategies being put forward is specific to address the local distinctiveness of the area, sort of enhancing what they've got into then trying to create something new there. It's enhancing what they've got there and looking at the local distinctiveness in terms of native species, etc. So it is something that's tying itself into the local area rather than being kind of a one size fits all kind of approach.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor, anything further? No. Okay, thanks for that. I'm going to bring in at this point, I know Councillor Thomas is waiting. Oh no, I've spoken with you, have I? Are you come back? Mr. Mike Shaw, who's the legal officer for the Planning Committee today, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll try to resist the temptation to cough. My apologies if I've been coughing in the background. Just picking up on the themes that were raised by Councillor Davis and also Councillor Ken Phillips. Madam Chair, you've mentioned yourself, perhaps Mr. Bellamy may wish to address committee on those concerns about the preservation of the ancient historical names. It's entirely a matter for you, Madam Chair, whether you want Mr. Bellamy to come back, and if Mr. Bellamy wishes to speak, but it is an opportunity if he wants to take that up.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw, for struggling there with your voice. I can hear it, so thanks very much. I will come back to Mr. Bellamy and give an opportunity, but I just wanted all the questions to have been asked by that point, and that's why I normally go back to local members at that point, just for sort of final comments. So do I have anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Carl Jordan, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members.
Oh, excuse me, we're having a bit of problem with your hearing you.
How's that?
Oh, excellent.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the invite. I'm sure as us as members and the Planning Committee of Neath Talbot Council should feel comforted, I think, by having two knowledgeable councillors sat in this location of this proposed construction site. I'm sure that they know this site like the back of their hands, really, as both grown up in the area. That Councillor Jones's, both Scott and Jeff, will happily work with these developers to maintain local names and possibly the location of historic places. The Drovers Road, which lies to the east, I think, of the site. Yeah, I really do think that with the help of Scott and Jeff, that along with Mr. Bellamy, these names can be maintained for the historic reasons of the site over.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't think I need to come to officers again. I think that was a comment rather than a question, so thank you for that. I can't see any questions at the moment, but I do have, it would be remiss of me, there was mention in the report of people maybe needing more clarification or maybe haven't read the report to the nth degree about the road network outside and how that might affect traffic. So I don't want to go forward to recommendations without coming to our highways officer, Justin Griffiths, to give a comment on that, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Just to touch upon the highway network, really, we've previously gone through original applications, which included a transport impact assessment for the site, and found that the highway itself is more than capable of taking the capacity of the traffic trips to and from the development. I think there was a comment as well, Chair, about the outcrop of the rock and the road narrowing on the Avon Valley Road.
Yes.
And it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention that as well. And obviously it is a classified highway, which has been in situ for many years. It is supported. We've done some works, Bridget and structures for Neath Talbot have done some extensive works there a few years ago as well to support it. It is an abnormal load route as well, and it takes commercial and industrial vehicles currently. and is more than capable of taking traffic, certainly for this development. And we could argue as well that, you know, it acts as a traffic calming measure as well to some extent as well for vehicles using that area. But yeah, and also in terms of traffic as well, the construction traffic is controlled by a construction method statement, which we've also requested as part of this development, which looks at the construction traffic, the timings back and forth through the development. That's all being catered for within the site. And yeah, other than that, you know, the entrances are currently being looked at in more detail as well as part of myself, excuse me, and the rest of my team. I know it seems to be common coughing at the moment, but yeah, myself and my team are rigorously looking at the junction design and the drainage as well for the whole development. And that's on ongoing matter as well, which has been very successful in terms of the dialogue that we've set up with the consultants at the moment as well. So other than that, really, you know, we fully endorse and support this project going forward, having been given the information thus far from the consultants and the applicant, really. And I don't think there's anything more I need to add to that, Chair.
Nope, that's fine. I just didn't want to go forward without any questions regarding it, because it was mentioned in the report, and I would be remiss not to highlight that. Okay, any other questions or comments from members of the committee? No, I see none at this point. Okay, then I'm going to go back to the two local members first, and then I will go back to Mr. Bellamy for a closing statement. So, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Yes, all I want to is to add to what local member Councillor Jones said earlier, is that I look forward to working with Mr. Bellamy and his team and the Wild Fox team. And hopefully all goes well, and wish him the best in the future. Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you very much. Councillor Scott Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. Very little really to add other than to again reiterate and take the opportunity to thank the developer, our planning department, and like Councillor Jeff Jones has advocated, I will also look forward to working with Wild Fox, Martin and his team going forward. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, then I'll come back to Mr. Bellamy of Salamanca and Wild Fox, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, councillors. Obviously, I've listened with great interest, and I'm very glad that you asked me to make some closing comments, actually, because I think the questions that have been raised are, and you know, I would say this.
Oh dear, we seem to be having a few sound problems at the moment.
Okay. Shall I turn my camera off? Would that help?
That might help.
Is it me that's the problem? Okay. Is that any better? Yes.
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. So I'm very glad that I've been asked to make some closing statements. And you know, clearly I've listened to the points that have been raised by councillors very carefully, and they have been extremely relevant and good points. And I would say this, I'd say that delivering a project of this scale is difficult. It's difficult wherever you deliver a project of this scale around the world. And we came into this project with our eyes wide open. And I think, you know, our track record is of delivering large projects. And, you know, we pride ourselves on that. And the key to success of delivering these large projects, the number one ingredient is partnership and collaboration. And what that means to us is that we are guests in South Wales, we are guests in the Afan Valley. And we have to work in partnership because we also have to understand what the local environment demands of us, what the local communities demand of us. And in turn, they also need to understand what we are going to demand of them. This resort will need over 1,000 direct employed individuals. And that employment pool has got to come from the local community, which means that we have a big task in terms of training people and educating them as to what the environment that we're trying to create of Wild Fox is, because ultimately we are in the entertainment business. We are in the business of bringing people to the valleys and to showing them just what a wonderful environment the valleys are. We are in the business of educating them as to the historical importance of the valleys. We're in the business of educating them as to the Welsh culture and the heritage. And so in addressing the points that council have made in regard to heritage and culture, it is incredibly important that we do allow people to come to Wild Fox Resorts, Avon Valley, and to understand the land that they're standing on, what the communities in the past have been engaged in, the history of mining, and also the incredibly difficult geological conditions that we find ourselves building upon for that very reason. And we need to ensure that there is appropriate signage that is in dual language. We need to ensure that there are information boards, and also somehow we need to integrate that heritage and to make it fun and to make it engaging, so that when people are undertaking their activities, they're doing so with a level of understanding about the local environment. Now, we will only do that in partnership. And, you know, the one thing that I can assure you is that we will deliver this scheme in partnership. We will listen to what is required. We're not going to do everything that people ask us to do, because that's impossible. And I'd be lying if I said that that was possible. But I think, and I hope that you can understand from the tone of what I'm saying, is that we will deliver what you require. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Okay, I have no further indications at this point. So I would ask you, members of the committee. Oh, Councillor Keogh?
Thank you, Chair. I have sat here this morning listening to with great interest. I have to say this for Scott, the champion of the Valley, is that it must be his Christmas and his birthdays all rolled into one. And I wish him every success up there. The thing that you may think that we go overboard about the Welsh culture and the Welsh language, but what you have to understand is Welsh is the oldest indigenous language in Europe. And not only that, the language that is spoken in this area and the names that are given in that area are part of the Southern Brythonic languages that were spoken before the Romans came here. I'm going to say Welsh was spoken as far as Scotland and the east of England, as the Isle of Dogs was known as the Epit Aranes. So I am passionate about our culture and passionate about our language. I hope you understand where we're coming from. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. A history lesson as well. That was great. Okay, so I would ask members of the committee then to go to the recommendations on page 50, and I'm going to then ask Chloe which is to recommend for approval. I must say that, and I'm going to ask.
Sorry.
Yeah, you've proposed, have you, Councillor
I have proposed, Chair, yeah.
Do I have a seconder? Vice Chair?
Yes, I second that proposal.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask Chloe now to go through each individual member of the committee to firstly ask if they've been present throughout, because some people may have dropped out because of IT problems. I'm not including Mr. Bellamy, he doesn't get a vote. And then ask which way they're going to vote. So if you would do that for me, please, Chloe.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Tim Bowen, how do you wish to vote?
Yes, I've been present.
I can see you've been present in the chamber. Thank you. So was that
approval?
Thank you. Councillor Heath Davis, have you been present for the whole meeting, and how do you wish to vote, please?
I approve.
Have you been present for the whole meeting?
I have.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Councillor Rosalind Davis, have you been present for the whole meeting, and how do you wish to vote?
I've been present for the whole meeting, and I vote in favour of the recommendation. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. Councillor Cathy James, have you been present for the whole meeting, and how do you wish to vote?
I have been present for the whole meeting and I vote in favour of the recommendation.
Thank you. Just to mention, Councillor Chris James, the usual chair, has given his apologies for this meeting. Vice Chair, Councillor Jeff Jones, I can see you've been present for the whole meeting. How do you wish to vote?
Yes, I have been present and I vote for the approval.
Thank you. Councillor Carl Jordan, have you been present for the whole meeting and how do you wish to vote?
Yes, I can confirm I've been present throughout the planning commission and vote in favour of the approval.
Thank you. I could just about hear one.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
did hear that.
Thanks. Councillor Dennis Keogh, have you been present for the whole meeting and how do you wish to vote?
Yes, Chair, I've been present for the entire meeting and I be voting for.
Thank you. And Chair, Councillor Patterson, I can see you've been present for the whole
I've been
meeting.
present, Chair Chloe, and I wish to vote in favour of.
Thank you. Councillor Ken Phillips, have you been present for the whole meeting and how do you wish to vote?
I have been present for the whole meeting and I wish to vote in favour of the recommendation.
Thank you. And Councillor Sarah Thomas, have you been present for the whole meeting and how do you wish to vote?
I have been present for the whole meeting and I wish to vote in favour of the recommendation.
Thank you. So, Chair, I can confirm that 10 members were present for the whole meeting and they've all voted for approval of the recommendation. So I can confirm that has been passed.
Yes, thank you very much. That has been approved and Mr. Chris Davis would like to come back in.
Thank you, Chair. I thought I'd wait till the end and it'd be remiss of me to mention the significant amount of work that officers within the authority have undertaken in the last months to 12 months over the application. Obviously, this application itself hasn't been in that long, but the amount of work, as you see from the report and even just the approved plans condition, shows you how much work has gone in over the last few weeks to try and pull this together to get it to committee today. Across the amount of information that our ecologists have looked at, the planning officers, highways, drainage, environmental health. It's a credit to them that they've managed to pull this together in such a time scale, and hats off to them to do today. So thank you very much for going with the recommendation today.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I also wish to say a few things now, which because of impartiality, I wouldn't have wanted to say before the meeting. I would like to pay tribute to past members of this committee who have just worked with different companies coming through to try and get this resort. We've given patience to the application. We've given them extra time. We've worked with them. Also, Mr. Davis, you're absolutely right. Kerry and Nicola, your officers have been tremendous in working with the applicant. And also, Mr. Bellamy mentioned working in partnership. And although this is a detailed application, which has been approved, we can see the work that is involved in going forward. So I think this is a momentous day for Neath Port Talbot to have this application be approved. And I will be looking forward to seeing how this development arises. And I concur with members who said that the local members obviously will be looking very closely at every detail there. But so will the planning committee. This shows that Neath Port Talbot as a council is open for business. We wish to have developments of this nature, and I would offer it our location to anybody that wants to make a business in Neath Port Talbot. Our officers are willing to work with you, and so are our members. And I am absolutely thrilled that this has actually been approved this morning. So thank you for that. I'm just have to refresh my iPad here because it's been, excuse me. Just to dovetail the meeting. Okay. So that has been approved. So I'll move then to agenda item 6, which is appeals determined. This is an item just for noting. So please note, members, do you have any comments to make on anything like that? See none. Item 7 is very similar. To note the delegated decisions made between the 3rd of October and the 31st of October 2022. Any comments on those decisions? No, I don't have anything further for today's meeting. So I think this has been very successful. And I thank you all for your attendance, members of the public and members that may be watching this on Rewind at a later date. I hope you can see how the workings of the council deals with applications like this. And I will close the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.